And we're live. So, everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Jonas Lee, and I'm here with CL Coffey. She is the author of the Angel in Training series. I say series because there's a second book that's coming out pretty soon, so start looking on the Amazons. So, today I'm joined by CL. She's in the northern part of England. CL, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon to come and see me. Now, I'm not going to be calling you CL as we just established off air. So Cheryl, now the Angel in Training series, what started that for you? Like, was there a certain idea or a dream, or what brought that about?
It started with a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and it was basically, what did it take to get into heaven? We had very different opinions, and I went away, and the next thing I know, I kind of had this idea, and I sat down at a computer one day and just started writing, and that was it.
What with that? Now you said you had different opinions. Would you like to share one of those two opinions, or yours, or?
Mine is probably quite similar to what's going on in the book, in that I think that honestly, if you have to be a good person, you have to do your best, and I think that is hopefully enough.
We're all crossing our fingers on that. Now, can you give a small premise of the book? 'Cause I'm sure anybody watching this, if they don't have your book, I would like them to be somewhat surprised, and I think you would too. But what's the general book about for readers?
So it's about a girl who is on a night out and she gets murdered. To be honest, that's pretty much within the first few pages of the book. But she's given a second chance at life, and she's given the opportunity by the Archangel Michael to become an angel, and hopefully one day an archangel herself. And in the process, she is given a charge to look after called Joshua. And it's all about how the two of them are working together to essentially investigate their murder, or her murder, should I say.
And it's not just hers, right? It's kind of a series of murders that somehow all start to click together, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a serial killer in New Orleans where the book's set, and that's who they're looking at.
And that's the other thing that I found was really interesting, because you're from England and the book is based in New Orleans. Have you been there, or is it a place that you just want to go to, or just a great setting that you came up with?
No, I went to LSU. I spent some time out there. I fell in love with it. Louisiana is, I'm quite reluctant to say this about Hull, but I'd rather be in Louisiana than in Hull. And then by default, I spent a lot of time in New Orleans as well, and fell in love with that city.
So there's lots of aspects in there that aren't just made up. You've actually experienced the streets downtown and the setting of the book, basically.
Yes, yeah. I actually went over quite recently with my parents, and my mother was like, "Oh, would you mind showing us around and showing us these things in your book?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So we went for a nice little walking tour around the French Quarter.
Now, when you're writing that, the characters in books, I think, is what really makes a book happen. I mean, the plot and everything like that is great, and in books, I think it's necessary. But I think people really cling to the characters. So when you're writing Angel, who is the lead character in your book, where do you draw that from? Is it from yourself? Is it from others?
There's an element of myself in there, with her experiencing the things and seeing it for the first time. But I kind of have this clear idea of how that character sounds in my head, and I'm trying to stick to that. If that makes sense.
Now, when you, like, for me, when I write, I have to get in the same mindset of the character that I want it to be. Do you ever find it hard to get back into the character? Because you have your second book coming out. Was the second book harder or easier than the first one?
Harder, definitely harder. I'd spent a lot of time with the first book, in the run up to actually writing the second book, through edits and promotion and stuff like that, I found it quite difficult to switch to the second one. And also that the tone's changed in the second one. It has become a little bit darker, and she's not in a great place following the consequences of what happened at the end of the first one. And that took a bit longer to get back into that mindset, because to be honest, I was polar opposite. I was all happy and cheerful and, you know, life's great, and she's like, really not. And that was a bit difficult.
Yeah, getting into that same emotional tone of a book gets really hard, I think. So I can feel where you're coming from, having to go from something where you're cheery to get into that mindset of this person can't be that happy. So did you find in this, by the end of the second one, are you looking towards a trilogy, or are you trying to like wrap things up?
It's going to be a series of 5, actually.
Yeah,
so I'm
good
not
news.
quite halfway. Sorry.
No. I was going to say that's good news for me, because I actually love the series. So
Thank you. Now, it's definitely a series of 5. I've kind of gone a bit further past that, and there are 2 more subsequent series with spin-off characters planned, but I can't let myself think that far ahead. I'm focusing on this 5 at the minute. But in terms of that, I'm not even halfway through her story yet, so got a bit more to go. But it is, I mean, like I said, the second book was a bit dark, I think, and it's getting a bit more positive and hopeful in the third one. I'm hoping. Starts off that way anyway.
So for those who are new readers to you, the first one's about this woman who becomes the angel in training after being murdered and things like that. Can you give some premise into the second one as to what they can also then look forward to, and what I can look forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to try and do this without giving spoilers to the first book. So something happens at the end of the first one, and it doesn't leave Angel in a very good place. She's really suffering from the consequences from it. Meanwhile, there are a couple of new angels in town who are there investigating something. And she's trying to get involved in that. Yeah, it's evil. But also she's having a hard time adjusting to her relationship with Joshua. She thinks that he would be much safer if she wasn't looking after him, but Michael is determined that that's not going to be the case. And then I suppose with a bit of a light-hearted twist on things, Cupid's living up to his name.
That was the other part of the book that I found was fun. Just the fact that Cupid is in it. And he's probably next to Angel, he's probably my favorite character, just because he's a smart ass and, you know, what you would expect somebody like that to be, I think. So it was fun reading along the whole entire way. So I'm looking forward to the second one, seeing what the third, fourth, fifth, and subsequent satellites will be. Now, are you with a publishing house, or are you indie?
Oh, I'm indie. I've done this all by myself.
What do you find? Because I think you're really actually one of the first that I've spoken to overseas. I don't know what the market is like for you out there. Is it stable? Is it better? Is it worse?
I would hazard a guess it's about the same, in that there's still this huge stigma around indie authors, and nobody wants to touch them until, you know, you've got 50,000 5-star reviews on your Amazon page and stuff like that. And in terms of getting into bookstores, local bookstores are helpful, but getting into that chain and getting it nationwide, that's hard. It's really hard.
Do you have what are the top 3 book chains over there in England?
It would probably be W.H. Smith's, Waterstones, and
You didn't know there was going to be a quiz in this, did you?
No, to be honest, in my town, it's only really those 2, and then we've got a couple of private ones. And for the life of me, I can't think of any others.
Now, local bookstores, I mean, it's always good to keep things local and kind of sprout out that way. But obviously, like you, getting into a big chain when you're an indie is pretty difficult, because they look at you as just anybody off the street anyhow. They probably won't look at the things that you put out there unless you have an agent, or is that same for you over there? Do you need an agent to actually get into those kind of venues?
For the bigger nationwide ones, yes, but they, on the flip side, they also have like a, not a deal so much as a respect for your local authors, and they're happier to put your local authors in. So I have managed to get into a W.H. Smith's in Hull, and I have got into one in Buxton, which is back where I'm from originally, but that's it. So it's a case of, for me, going in and talking to them and putting a face to your work and sticking your book in front of them and saying hi, which is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying.
It really is. Like, you wouldn't think it would be as bad, but it's literally like trying to sell a little bit of yourself to people, and you just kind of walk in and you feel, I mean, I don't know about you, but I felt like stupid. Like I had no hands trying to open something, basically.
I pretty much went to pieces. I kind of marched in and went up to the first person I found who looked like he worked there, and kind of just had this verbal diarrhea at him going, hi, I really want to put my book in your bookstore. Is that possible? And please do it. And hi. And he was like, yeah, we do that. I'm the manager. You've come to the right person. I was like, okay. Really shaking, and I just went from there. So, but that first step, that's hard.
Yeah, that first time you try and get in somewhere, it does feel really nerve-wracking, I think. But I mean, for you, does it get easier to go into places, or have you had any type of like signing in your hometown yet?
I did do my can't speak now. I did manage to do a book signing. That was even more terrifying. I'd picked a day which I hope would work with, people coming in. So it was a Saturday at the end of the month, and it was dead. And the average age of the person coming into the store was not my target audience at all, which for me, I find, it's not that I've got a problem at all with whoever is reading the book. It's just, I find it easier to approach the target audience to talk to than anyone out of it. And I didn't do great.
Now, your target audience, I would guess, would be somewhere in the teens to 30s.
Yes, yeah. The average age on that day was probably double.
So, I mean, you had a little bit to overcome.
Yeah.
What did you find was the hardest part about the signing process? Was it expecting people to come in, or terrified that people were there, or?
I think I went through everything, to be honest. I started off thinking nobody would come. I was very lucky in that some friends of mine chose that day to come and pick up the book as well. So I did have some people coming up to me. And then it was a case of realizing that I'm a nobody and nobody knows who I am and what my book is, and then having to pluck up the courage to go and talk to somebody and approach them and say, hi, have you read my book? Have you heard of my book? Do you want a new book for the summer to read? And that became the hardest part.
Yeah, selling yourself really is the least fun part about being an author, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, having the time and patience and creativity to actually come up with a work of fiction, it sounds really easy. And I think everybody thinks it's really easy until you put your face in front of a computer or pen and paper or anything and try to write more than 5,000 words. After you get over that 5,000 word month or slump, you're kind of going, huh, what now?
No, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but so I think for people like us, getting it out into bookstores and on Amazon and things like that, it starts to become really taxing. And I think that's where traditional publishing is. They have that. They have a team of people that's going to do that kind of stuff for you. But for us, it's like, you're everything. You're everything in this whole entire business now. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I chose to do the indie route because I wanted to experience everything and I wanted to have a go at everything and see how much I could build up by myself. And then it kind of got probably about 2 months after the first book release, and I was like, why have I done this? Why didn't I get a team behind me? But you learn and, you know, hopefully grow from it. So hopefully at the next book signing, it won't be as terrifying. We'll see.
No promises there. I've only had one person myself, so I'm just in the singles club. But I'm already just kind of not really dreading. I'm looking forward to it with like an excited anticipation, but still that little bit of anxiety of like, oh god, I gotta get in front of people again and try and tell them all about this book that basically lives in me, and I know it like word for word, and people all around, but I have to try and sum it up in about 30 seconds for everybody who comes by. That part sucks. But was there, I'm trying to think, what would be the one thing that you want to strengthen as far as your indie authorship goes? This is where I think that that internet in whole might have dropped out on her again. We were having some technical difficulties earlier. The internet provider in northern England is apparently singular and right around just one area, and apparently that area sucks. And I think we lost Cheryl, so hopefully she'll come back in a little bit. Until then, I wonder what we can talk about. Yeah, I don't know. On that note, I would love to keep it going and let you all stare at me, but unfortunately, that would be terrible. What I will say is I'm going to have some links at the bottom of this YouTube video that's going to link back to Cheryl's book, her upcoming book, which will release on October 31st. It's the Angel in Training series. It's a fabulous book, really. I mean, great characters, great story, great descriptions, great everything. I highly suggest it. Anybody who likes the paranormal, the things like that that are out there, go give it a shot. And if you have any questions that we weren't able to get to, just put them in the comments down below, and we'll come back. I'll make sure I'll answer it, and hopefully her internet will come back up with sprouting colors at some point, and we can go from there. Other than that, I want to thank you all for stopping by, and I hope that you have a good Saturday afternoon.